Welcome to Pick Up and Deliver, the podcast where I pick up my audio recorder as I headed out for a walk and deliver an episode to you while I stroll around. I'm Brendan Riley. Well, hello, dear listener. If you listened to my last episode, you heard me on my way to the hardware store to buy light bulbs. I'm now on my way home from buying light bulbs. And on my way home, I will be talking about 3 new games that I've played recently for the first time. That's right, it's time for another shooting from the hip triple shot. For those of you new to the podcast, shooting from the hip triple shot is a quick review or quick response segment in which I talk about a game that I've played recently for the first or maybe first and second time, and I tell you a little bit about what I thought of the game. It's pretty simple, pretty fun. I usually do 3 in an episode, which is why it's called the triple shot. I don't know why, when I started doing that, I mean, you can go back and look, but I've been doing it for a while now. I guess it's because on a first impression, there's not really a ton to say. 5 minutes is usually enough. It's a 15-minute podcast, so 3 reviews, we're out of time. That's what it is. All right. The first one is the last game that I played in 2022. After that, all the games are in January of 2023. So, the last game I played in 2022 was Inner Compass. Inner Compass is from AEG. I regret to say I did not look up the designers' names, although you can find the link to the Board Game Geek page on the show notes for this episode at rattleboxgames.com, or you could just type in Inner Compass Board Game Geek in your search engine of choice, and it'll take you to the Board Game Geek page about this game. Inner Compass is at its heart an abstract set collection game in which you are gathering a variety of different tokens and getting points for the arrangement of tokens that you gather and fulfilling sort of scoring goals based on those arrangements. The interesting part of the game, or the puzzle of the game, comes from the fact that on your turn, you have a piece that you're moving around a board, and the way that you move that piece determines what kind of token you're going to get, or what kind of card you're going to get, and those cards then determine various kinds of scoring and whatnot. So there's an interesting element of trying to calculate how you're going to move. The really interesting part about the movement is that if you move onto a space, you get a token from that space. But if you move onto that space in the same direction as the card that's showing on this grid, and that card matches the color token you're getting, you get an extra token of that color. And then you're going to put those tokens on your personal player board, and you score points for a variety of things related to how those tokens appear on your player board. I know it's kind of hard to explain, but it's an abstract game that involves set collection and arrangement of pieces, and it's really hard to put into words without having it there to show it to you. So I would say, go take a look at it on Board Game Geek if you want to get an idea of some pictures. Now, I thought the abstract puzzle of the game was interesting and fun. We had a good time playing it. I liked it enough that I'm not immediately putting it on the trade pile. But, and this is a huge but, the theme of the game is focused around the idea of finding your inner peace and finding inner direction for things you want to do and where you want to go with your life. None of that has anything to do with what you're doing in the game. There is no process by which understanding the theme helps you play the game better. There's nothing in the game that would make you think you are doing the things that the rulebook says the theme is related to. Even the very basics of what the tokens look like and stuff don't evoke this sense of an inner journey, in part because it's a difficult thing to evoke. Now the art does. So the cards have art on them, and that art does evoke different memories from different parts of your life, which, okay, sure. But from a theme perspective, this game is a total miss and a real bummer because it's a neat idea for a theme, but the game is just entirely abstract, and I think they just wanted a theme to put on it, and so they picked this. I don't know that it needed a theme, or it should have had one that felt, more germane to what you're doing in the game, but I don't know what that would have been. So, if you get a chance to play Inner Compass and you like abstracts, it's good. I would recommend trying it out. It's fun to play, but honestly, if you really like abstracts, you probably wouldn't hurt to buy it either. I bet it's on deep discount wherever it's available to buy, because I haven't heard anyone talk about this game, in part because it's a real miss on theme, and I think there's enough interesting light abstracts that it didn't make waves in that regard. So probably not worth your time. But that's Inner Compass from AEG. All right, the next game I want to talk about is Allow Me to Mansplain. This is from 4Y Games. This is a party game set around the notion of trying to do hidden communication with your partner and earn points by getting that communication correct. The idea of the game is that you are combining a variety of cards that you draw to come up with a patronizing mansplaining style statement. Like, if you had studied something useful in college, you would probably know what something is. And then as the mansplainer, you have to patronizingly explain to your partner what something is. And it's generally something pretty simple, like light bulbs. It might prompt you to say, if you had studied something useful in college, you might know what these devices that you attach to electrical outlets in your house that provide illumination and are disposable and replaced with other ones when they burn out are. And the person would say, I think I know what light bulbs are. You'd say, are you sure you know what light bulbs are? And they'd say, yes, I know what light bulbs are. And then you get the point for successfully doing it. If they get it wrong, then you can try to explain again, and I think you get 2 points on the first guess, 1 point on the second guess, something like that. Then the other team goes. There's a variety of different cards and prompts. The prompts are all very funny, especially the patronizing introductions have the scent of mansplaining ideas to them. It makes for an amusing pastime. As far as party games go, it's right in line with a lot of judge games. It depends a lot on your group to end up being fun or not. That, like with Snake Oil or But Wait, There's More, which I haven't played, or even Super Fight, the quality of the gameplay comes from the people who are campaigning and making the statements. Can they make it fun? Now, it is interesting because it crosses a little bit over into something like Taboo, or Title Recall, or monikers, where you're trying to do it. We're trying to get someone to guess a prompt. The big difference here is that there's not a speed element in Allow Me to Mansplain. You're explaining as you like. The other challenge, this game is independently produced, so it's as a price, it reflects that it's a very small print run. And so it's a pretty expensive purchase for what you get in the box. That said, I had a good time with it, and I'm glad we picked it up. It'll stay in the collection for a while. So that is Allow Me to Mansplain from 4Y Games. The designer's name, I can't remember their last name, first name Curvin, pretty prominent board game designer on TikTok. So that's where I heard about the game. Yeah, so that's Allow Me to Mansplain. You can be ordered from the 4Y Games website. Finally, the third game that I got to play was Bad Company. Now, Bad Company is a new game from France, from Repos Productions, I believe. It's got a very distinct, I would call this a French art style. I don't know how to describe it except to say that, I have this game, City of Horror, and the way that the characters in that are drawn reminds me of the characters in Bad Company. So in Bad Company, you run a group of thieves, and you've pulled off a heist, and you're now trying to get away from the cops and pulling off more heists as well, trying to stay ahead of the cops. The game mechanism that it's built on is the space base or Machikoro mechanism, where you roll dice, and that triggers cards in your tableau. The big difference between this game and other games, where in Machikoro, only occasionally did the buildings in your tableau trigger on other people's turns, and the card pool was relatively limited. Space Base featured a much bigger card pool and a lot more triggering on other people's turns. Well, Bad Company amps that up another notch. In this one, most of your figures do trigger on other people's turns as well as your own. It has to do with the dice that get rolled. I think there's 4 dice, and the player who rolled them takes 2 and uses those plus the other dice they rolled, and everybody else just gets the second set of dice. It works pretty well. But the overall experience is one of building up an engine and trying to get it run. We had a good time. I did not like it as much as Space Base, although I can see why people would. I think that it has more depth ultimately than Space Base does. But the theme did not really click for me, and I'm not sure what it was about it that didn't quite work as well as I would have liked. I'm walking by somebody shoveling. But if you like the space-based Machikoro style game, you definitely should check out Bad Company, because it is absolutely right up that alley, and I think it would likely eclipse one or both of those games for you, depending how the theme resonates for you and the art hits. So Bad Company was a fun game. I'm glad to have played it. Probably wouldn't displace Space for me, and certainly isn't sending me out to buy it, but happily play it if somebody gets that out again. And then finally, I did recently get to play Trekking in the National Parks again. This is a game I'd played many times in the past but hadn't played for a while, and we got it out. I remembered this game getting less playtime for us because it was so mean. It's a mean game, involves a significant amount of player versus player action, and that remained true for this play as well. Really pretty vicious game in terms of how much of what you're doing is about blocking the other players or upsetting the other players. Even more than, Ticket to Ride can be played that way, but Trekking the National Parks really has to. It'd be very hard to play it in a way that doesn't get in other people's ways. So that part is frustrating to me. So again, I haven't gotten rid of it, in part because it was a gift, but certainly not my favorite of that style of game. Well, thanks for joining me on my walk today. If you have new games you've played, head over to Board Game Geek Guild 3269 and share them there. And I will talk to you later. I hope that your next walk is as pleasant as mine was. Bye-bye.
Brought to you by Rattlebox Games.